So what Gail has done, she's going to come talk to you later about all of the different things that we have up here, how we use them, like all of the different documents and stuff like that. But before we do that, I'm going to have Erin come up and talk to you, okay? So Erin Gray is the homeless liaison for the city of Kingsport. And on your things, where it says, navigating the challenging world of different types of women with individual issues and playing well with others women in the sandbox of life. Man, that's pretty powerful. So we deal with all types of women, and Erin's going to come and talk about what she sees in Kingsport. And she's going to talk a little bit about drug use and how to identify drug use in our women and how to save women who are on, like if they're overdosing and stuff like that. So welcome to the stage.
I'm not the public speaker that she is, so
Yeah, you are.
I am Erin Gray. I'm a social worker for the city of Kingsport. I am in the Kingsport Police Department, so that's where I work out of.
Talk real loud.
I mean, I don't really have an agenda. I'm open to answering any questions. I will tell you kind of what I do every day. I was hired to specifically address and help engage the homeless population to help them get towards some sort of permanency, healing, whatever it is that they needed, treatment. And so that's what I've been working on since January 2020. Obviously, COVID changed my job a little bit, but we worked every day. We were out there every day, so we saw a lot of success last year in the midst of a pandemic. So I'm very thankful for that. I do work with Jonathan Anderson pretty much daily. If he watches this, he probably wishes I don't call him as much as I do, but I do.
Tell him who he is. So
He is Jonathan Anderson is the Homeless Services Liaison with United Way. So he works for United Way in the city. He's like a joint partnership, and then I'm solely the city. So, but we work daily, every day. We take people to appointments. If it's not somebody that I have developed a relationship with, we transport them together for safety reasons, anything like that. So, but you know, he's a phone call for you guys as well, and he's a support for you guys as well. We can bring some of his cards by. The homeless culture here in Kingsport is just kind of, it's exploded, and social media has put what I believe is a skewed perspective of what it truly is. Every person is an individual. Every person does have different needs, different traumas, different histories, different futures that they're going to have. So you can't look at it as a lump sum kind of population. There are shelters here in Kingsport that do have bed availability that you do not have to pass a drug screen to get into. The only thing is you can't take paraphernalia in. One of the shelters is a little bit more lax. If you come in and you're not disrupting, you're not to the point of intoxication that you're disruptive or violent, she'll let you go in, sleep it off, and stay in a safe place. There is another shelter that does require you to pass a drug screen. However, if you're not able to do so and you go to treatment, they will take people strictly out of treatment to give them that safe place to transition back into the community. So there are two shelters here. Kingsport Homeless Ministries is, I'm sure you guys have read about that. They're looking at hopefully opening a new one in the near future. I don't know the timeline of that or when we could expect that. But there are a lot of good organizations here. Let me back up a little. Before I took this job, I was a therapist. So I worked with men and women in substance abuse. I worked with kids in foster care. I worked with victims of sexual abuse. I worked with victims of drug abuse, and just a lot of trauma. And our culture has really focused on trauma-informed care. You'll hear the word ACEs a whole lot, adverse childhood experiences. There's a huge study in it. It's very scientific and it's very real. What I will tell you is, as a therapist, I may get social workers mad at me for saying this. If I'm working with someone for 6 months under a therapeutic umbrella, and we are still talking about the same thing 6 months later, what's going on? What are we doing? Where's the work at? As volunteers, you have to be able to recognize the people that are stagnant and the people that are willing to put the work in to move forward. We can remain victims our entire lives. If I handed an ACEs survey to everyone in this room, you would probably have a score. I would have a score. My children would have a score. However, that does not define us. There's a YouTube video, and I was scrolling social media one day, and I didn't know this, but I think it's C.D. Jakes' daughter, Sarah Roberts, I think. And there was a snippet, and she was doing some sort of conference, or she was preaching, and it came through and it said, "Get up, girl," and that was the name of her. You know, depression don't have you. You know, my daughter needs to see you get up. You know, it's talking about generational, and that's the things that we have to identify whenever we're working with someone. We're not just working in that moment. We are working in a generational, more than likely, environment and culture. So whenever you're working with someone, mental health is a real thing. Substance abuse is a real thing. I'll hit the substance abuse first. Methamphetamine in this area, there's heroin in this area. Those are the two kind of top drugs that we are seeing right now, is heroin and meth. The unfortunate reality is, if people go, meth is very cheap. It's a cheap drug. Dealers can buy large quantities for a very small amount of money, in turn sell it, and then it's just a cycle. There are law enforcement agencies, not just Kingsport Police Department or Sullivan County. There's several law enforcement agencies that are battling this every day, and they're doing a very good job of it. So methamphetamine, you're going to see a lot of physical attributes. You're going to see sweating. You're going to see jerking. It's a lot of paranoia. You'll hear a lot of people say, "Somebody's tapped my phone. They're stalking me through my phone. People are stalking me." You have to sit down and figure out. Yesterday I was in here and I talked to someone. I just let her talk. I just let her talk and talk and talk to the point where she finally said, "I used." Okay, that's where we need to go. No judgment on my part. That's where I need to work from though. So, understanding that. Heroin is going to be more of your downer. It's going to make people, that's where a lot of the overdoses are coming in. It essentially just shuts your breathing down. It shuts your body's ability to stay alive. That's where you use Narcan. I don't know if you guys have that on.
We do have Narcan in both here, and looks like this. It's in both houses. I don't know if this one's ran out, Erin. Erin may have to give us some more. I don't know. You can look at it.
So you'll have an expiration date. So this one is expired as of August. So
Talk about how to administer it and all that.
not really, because that might be a liability.
Okay.
It's pretty. Narcan's like the CPR. You can't get in trouble for administering it. It's a Good Samaritan.
It's got the directions.
So-
We've had training on it too.
Yeah, we have, and we'll have training on it again.
So the thing about it is, these boxes here, I think they have two in them. And I carry this on me all the time. Officers carry it on them, EMS, fire department. So this is what it'll look like. And there are 2 doses in here. This was whenever a lot of people initiate CPR first and then administer Narcan. What we are seeing is these 2 doses of Narcan are not combating what they're currently taking. There have been reports to where they're having to be given 4 and 5 doses of Narcan. So the reality of whenever I say it's meth and heroin, it's not just meth and heroin. There's fentanyl and everything. There's a new drug that is 5 to 6 more times potent than fentanyl that's being screened for right now that has been found in Sullivan County. So anyway, call EMS if you find somebody, if they fall over, sleepy, labored breathing, just call 911. And if you can administer the Narcan, please administer the Narcan. If don't be scared to do it. It's going to potentially save their life.
The gloves are in case they aspirated or something, and maybe they had some type of a disease or something. You don't want to spread that. You definitely have to protect yourself. So if you can, take the time to put the gloves on. You want to save somebody's life, so you don't want to take a whole lot of time, but also protect yourself.
We've never had to use it here, though.
We've never had to use it, thank you.
And that's good. Yeah, that's great. That is the reality. My kids are back there right now. They're 6 and 9, and I'm having the conversations with drugs about them right now. The average first drug usage right now is 10 years old. So it's just the world that we're living in. You can't ever think that it's not my kids. I mean, addiction is no stranger of anybody. It can be the most rich and famous person in the world to the one that doesn't have a pair of shoes to put on. So having those conversations and being aware of them. So with that comes the drug addiction is the conversations to have with people. A lot of times, especially if we don't know them as well as we wish we did, that moment that we have them may be the only opportunity that we have that can ask, will you go to detox? Will you get treatment? I ask that all the time. We can't be afraid to hurt people's feelings asking that. I don't know. Some people say I don't have good tact all the time, and I don't. I would rather make somebody uncomfortable through a 5-minute conversation than to read a report where they're dead the next day.
Tell it,
Susan. And I'll give you an example of it. I was at up on Oak and Myrtle Street one day, and I was talking to a woman. I had went to her last overdose where they actually had to intravenously give her Narcan because it just wasn't working. And this was her 4th or 5th overdose in a month, and she didn't even remember it. I was there. I didn't think she was going to come back, and she did. And I talked to her shortly after she was released from the hospital, and I begged her, get in my car and let's go. Get in my car and let's go. And I said, and I told her how I felt. I was like, I was very scared to see you in that state because I didn't take the time to maybe ask you this question that I'm asking you now. And I had that opportunity, and she had that opportunity. And she said, Erin, I'm tired of it. I said, let's go. No questions asked. You don't need an ID. You don't need anything. Let's just get in the car and let's go. And she said, come, this is Friday. She said, come here Monday morning and I'll be ready. She died Sunday of an overdose. So that's a very real, if I hadn't had that conversation with her and I came in to read that report, it still broke my heart to have that conversation. But I needed to have that conversation with her. So have the conversation. You don't have to do it. I always tell them, it's no judgment. It is, I don't care if they're shooting it up, if they're snorting it, if they're smoking it. to me, it doesn't matter. Addiction runs in my family. My mom's side of the family has a history of addiction. I'm aware that I have some probably predisposed physical things for that. So I have to be careful. So it's, like I said, it's no different than asking somebody if they need their insulin, if they're diabetic. It's no different than asking somebody if they need their blood pressure medicine. So just don't be afraid to have the conversation. It may offend them, and that's okay. It's okay to have uncomfortable conversations. Mental health. I hear this a whole lot. And I do think that mental health plays a factor in some. I think the amount of people in this city that are homeless that truly have a mental health condition that would inhibit their ability to live independently is very small. I can probably name 5 right now. The rest of the diagnoses, there are people that live with anxiety, there are people that live with depression, there are people that live with PTSD, there are people that live with bipolar, there are people that live with these diagnoses that live very successful lives. Again, because they're treating it just like any other medical, physical condition. They're taking care of their mental health. So, I try to be cautious of saying mental health is a major reason because I just don't see that. Camps. I'm glad Chantel talked about be mindful of who you're giving stuff to. We get called out to the Greenbelt for an abandoned camp. Every piece of clothing essentially gets picked up by Public Works. They're not tearing down active camps, they're cleaning up an abandoned camp. All the donations, and I see it as donations. They're just going through, leaving what they don't want, and then somebody else has to clean it up. And I think one camp had about 3,200 pounds of trash. So just be mindful of, Jonathan Anderson, I won't take credit for it, but he taught me something. He said, until you can't treat poverty or homelessness from a materialistic standpoint, you can't. A pair of shoes is not going to change someone's state. It's not going to change, the next day. I have people calling me all the time. I need a hotel room for 3 days, Erin, just 3 days. What's 3 days going to do? After 3 days, how is that going to change your life? So this population is very reactive. They're in the moment. They're, oh my God, whole world's ending. So trying to retrain that and being proactive is what we're really trying to get to. I don't know. Let's see.
So what do you do in relationship with Oasis to explain your relationship and how you work with us, with the city of Kingsport and us to help women?
So I believe part of this is personal. I believe that the balance between clinical treatment and spiritual treatment is holistic treatment. That's what I believe. I believe that medications are very important, and I also believe that prayer is very important. So I beg women to come here, because even if it's to take the shower, even if it's to wash the clothes in their backpack, even if it's to sit down, I beg women to come here because I believe what you all are doing. If we can start to give them that safe place, that's where conversations start happening. I just believe in it. I believe it has a good balance. I get people into treatment. Sometimes it's hard because some ministries you can't take any of your medications while you're here. Well, your antipsychotics are kind of important, so maybe that's not the best placement. So it's just kind of this is a good balance. I feel like the accountability that's put here, you have to have rules and boundaries. Asking someone to leave for the good of 15 other people is okay. You know, setting those rules is okay. Holding people accountable is so important. You have to hold people accountable, because that's, whenever we don't hold people accountable and we keep letting them do the same thing over and over and over, and we keep extending that out over and over and over, essentially we're saying they can't do any better whenever they can. And they're able to do that. So that's how I see accountability. We have to, I don't know, that's not a very good answer, but I do think it's a good balance for what you guys do.
So we can call her at any time. She may not be able to answer when you first call her, because everybody in Kingsport calling her. She's got 2 phones, but Erin and I go way back. We've slept in the same bed together.
Yeah.
That sounds bad, but it was because we were on beach trips and stuff and hanging out together, because we've been friends for a long time. And at one time we prayed together all the time. Remember that? We'd go to church together and pray together when nobody else was there. So we have a relationship that goes way, way back, and so I know I can trust her. And she knows she can trust me. So that's why when I say Erin Gray, Erin Gray, Erin Gray all the time, is because I know I can count on her. So whenever we run into a situation, well, like with the lady yesterday, she was available. She came right then. She had something she had to get done, but she came right when she got done, and she sat down with that lady and made provision for her. We have her packets, her intake forms right here. And Gail will talk about all of that when she comes up, but they're right back here. And we started labeling everything. She's gonna go over all of that with y'all.
That's the one form I had questions on.
Okay, this is Erin Gray's intake packet.
This is I made this up during COVID whenever we were able to place people into a hotel at AmeriCorps, and within 48 hours we essentially opened a homeless shelter for about 45 individuals, and so this is very made up. It may not apply, don't feel like it needs to apply. This is my reaction to 45 people. I was going to have to start case management. So it's a work in progress. It's helpful though. One of the things that AmeriCorps did is we didn't just look at housing people, but we looked at it from a holistic point of view. So medical, dental, mental health, job. So that's kind of what all this has in there. It has the housing piece, but also has all the other pieces to look at. There is a release of information in here that is a interagency one. Some places will accept this and some won't. It has been cleared through our legal department, through the city, so our city attorney signed off on it. So you can put the organizations that you're working with. Pretty much it's United, well, on all of them it's going to be United Way and City of Kingsport, I believe, is on here. And like you guys can add the Oasis, which are on here, I think. But if they don't feel comfortable, you can just tell them to fill out what they can, and then, but it's just helpful for me. There's nothing in here that, like, not everything has to be filled out. It's,
When do we get them to fill that out? I mean,
if they want to work with me for anything,
okay.
so you can just give it to them, and if I can come, that, like, if you guys call me, I'm down to come if I'm not, in the middle of something else. So, and even if I can tell you it'll be 30 minutes, and I'll be here in 30 minutes. But if they are homeless, like have nowhere to stay. If they're in the Salvation Army, I pretty much am working with Tracy over there on all of her people, so they pretty much have done this, but we really with the shifting of the seasons and people being outside, if they are truly homeless and have nowhere to go, I would just ask them, will you be willing to work with Erin or at least make contact? I don't have a magic wand, I don't have all the answers, but I got a lot of phone numbers, essentially.
Erin, I've had a phone call one time, they said, can you give me Erin's number? And at that time, I didn't know who you were or anything, but I knew not to give out a phone number. And she said, I've had it before, but I lost my phone and I don't have it now. But I didn't know what phone number. Where do we get a hold of you? Is it the police station?
I can tell everybody my cell phone number here, and then I can bring some cards. I have to order some more.
It's
Yeah,
all
you don't want
on
us to
that
give out
front page too. Both her work numbers are here, but her personal cell phone is not on there.
We don't want to give that out.
Yeah.
We can use it if we need to.
You can give anybody the office number. I typically try to forward it to my cell phone because I'm never in the office. So it just gets forwarded anyway. But you can give my cell phone number to anybody. And typically cell phone number is better anyway because they have that text now and
So
they
you
can.
can give your cell phone number?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
She
everybody.
said she had it, and I talked to other women, they're like, no, she didn't have it, and so I was very confused, which was one of the first phone calls I took, concerning, Nancy, what to do.
Just explain
But
what your
that,
cell phone
we
is.
passed that information on to Jen Calvin and to take care of it.
Yeah. You can give that 579 number out to anybody.
'Cause it's her work cell. Her work cell, she's got a work cell and a work phone in the office. And then she has a separate cell phone number. So when you see Erin, she's always carrying around 2 cell phones.
So, I gotta carry the other one in case school calls. But you can give my cell phone number to anybody. And it's just typically easier because a lot of people use the Wi-Fi only kind of phones, and they can text through that. If they can't get me on the phone, they can text me, and I can reply whenever they're back in service or something. So yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Erin? We'll open the floor up for more questioning.
Okay, so if we are having a conversation with someone that's homeless, then we would call you if they're willing to.
Yeah, if they're willing to talk to me, absolutely, you can.
Yes.
Or you can talk to Chantel, too.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't have to go directly to her.
so this would be a good time for me to talk about this since you're here. This is the Isaiah 59 program that we built specially for homeless program. We're calling it the Isaiah 58 program because I don't want to always refer to people as homeless. That's not their identity. They're people. Okay? So when you're dealing with people, there's a time to come off and just be like, well, are you, when people come in the door, just because they look homeless, don't mean they're homeless. So please do not look at somebody and give them a packet thinking they're homeless when they're not. You know what I mean? That's the reason why at the top of this it says Isaiah 58, which do you know the scripture where it talks about the Lord's fast, feeding the hungry and clothing the widow, clothing those that need to be clothed. So that's where this came from. Okay? So on the front of the paper it shows what the program is about and what the program includes. And the very second page that starts out the help list, guess whose number's at the top? Okay? Erin Gray from the city of Kingsport and Jonathan Anderson from United Way are both of our liaison for homelessness. These are the people that I go to. These are my go-to people. There's people I trust, and there are people that are right in the middle of everything that goes along with homelessness. We also deal with Tracy from the Salvation Army. Her number is on here. There is actually all the Salvation Armies in every city in the tribe is on here. So, Family Promise and different places like that, you can find information about housing. Arch is on there. And then the very next page is our homeless policy that we ask people to look at and fill out if we're doing them a homeless letter. Now, a homeless reference letter is a certified letter, not certified in that it's actually a certified piece of mail, but it's in that it is validated through the city of Kingsport and through our state under our organization. So there are a few agencies that do it. Erin does it, Salvation Army, Shade's used to. I don't think they're doing anything right now. There's a couple of different places that you can get a homeless letter. This is our process, okay? So in this packet, it's all included in this packet. All you gotta do, read that first page. The reason why I did it this way is so that new volunteers too could read that first page and understand what this packet is for. So if you read this first page of the Isaiah 58 program, you will understand what Isaiah 58 program is and what these sheets are. Okay? So this policy says that the Oasis will validate and make referrals for someone that we're issuing a homeless letter for. And if we're I don't know, you guys should have got an email from Lee. I know she forwarded it to most people who have already signed up as a volunteer, but on there is the procedure for creating a homeless letter for an individual who's dealing with homelessness in their life, okay? So we ask for references to validate that. We have a paper trail. So we're going to put our name on that sheet of paper, but we're also going to know that these people can verify that this person is homeless and they're looking for help, but they're not just trying to get one over, they really need help, okay? And that validates when they go to like Family Promise or they go to Neighborhood Service Center or KCMC or even Erin or whatever. That lets Erin know if that person has a homeless letter from Oasis of Kingsport that they're already working with us, right? So vice versa. We have her paperwork, they have our paperwork. Either way they meet up with her, we've taken care of it all around, right? So that's what this packet is for. Both of those packets are right here. We have one that's also for low income, and we'll talk about that later, for individuals who basically, before we had, all the help list was together. And it was so confusing because you're giving a help list to people and it's not individualized to their situation, and it was confusing for people. So what I try to do is minimize the confusion by creating two separate lists, and that's what these packets are for. Okay, any more questions for Erin? Go ahead.
I've got one more thing, and sorry if I have that public speaker. Another real reality, especially with the women in this community, whether it be homeless, low income, you know, one of the reasons why I want them to come here, and I'm thankful that the men are not allowed to come here, is there is such a toxicity and codependency in their relationships. They have never known a healthy relationship. They, it's just codependency. I don't know how else to put it. And I think if they can get around strong women and be shown a different side of that, that's going to also help whenever they're ready to either go to therapy, couples therapy, or whatever it may be, or leave. So codependency is just very strong in this population. Another thing is, Chantel talked about self-care. As a therapist, there are, I don't know everybody's story in this room. I have my own story. I went to, this is vulnerability. You know, I've been through things in my life, even not so long ago. I went to treatment for myself. I went to therapy. I healed from that, because if I can't heal from what I was in, I can't help somebody else. Whenever we are in a tornado or a storm, the help has to come from outside that storm. We can't be caught up in it. Police officers do that. If you're able to, if you ever have an opportunity to do a ride along with an officer, I highly suggest it. I think it's great. The adrenaline from, you know, one dispatch call to another, you never know what you're going into. But I hear sometimes, well, they just weren't nice to me. And, you know, I'm a victim of this and that or the other, and they just didn't seem like they cared. If we're involved in that emotional state with them, we're not helpful to them. We have to stay back here, clear head, good decisions, what's the best thing. Yeah, I always tell people, emotions are temporary, decisions are permanent. No matter what decision you make, it affects the next step and the next. This emotion's going to go away. It may not go away for a few days. It may go away in 10 minutes. You can't physically stay mad all of the time. Like it would wear you out. Like you can't constantly cry and feel depressed. You know, you're never going to be at the lowest of lows consecutively, consistently. It's a wave effect. So getting people to understand that, because we're very reactive to our emotions, and we just want to just be cautious. So if you've experienced something in your life that still triggers you, take care of yourself and take care of that member, and understand that you may not be able to provide them the best guidance because you're still in that spot of emotional healing too. You have to heal from it and become, you know, like get up. She's telling me to come on. Okay,
Who is?
Remedy.
Oh. Well, does anybody else have any other questions? I was looking online to see if anybody had any questions. I'm not seeing.
Sherry has a question.
Okay.
You work with the battered women that have possibly babies, just had babies, all that.
Yeah, so Branch House is a good resource for that. Tina Johnson with the Frontier Health Safe House is incredible. I've known Tina for a while. They will do, the domestic violence world is a little bit different. It is very reactive. Once that woman is ready to leave that relationship, they have to be reactive in that. They have to say, okay, let's go, because it's just getting them to safety. So Branch House is a good, they have the same nurse. If you have anybody that's come in saying they've been raped or sexually assaulted, the Branch House is the same nurse that can come do the exam there. They don't have to go to the hospital and deal with that. They keep it as trauma informed as possible. They have therapists on staff. And they have a place for the kids to go that's separate. And then Tina, like I said, if it's just fleeing a domestic violence relationship, Tina's real good to be very quick in that. And there is a house here in Kingsport, a safe house, and there's one in Johnson City, both. And they're also, I have worked with a man that has fled, and Tina's worked with him. So this is not just women either. There are men that are victims as well.
Do you have a list of these resources?
That's the help list that I was just telling you about. We have two specialized lists. One that has, and a lot of them have the same information, but some of them have specific information. If you can't find everything you need in this, we have a master list right here. It's about this thick.
Wow.
And it has every resource you can think of. So,
I work at the Churchill Public Library. It would just be helpful if, would I be able to get a copy of both of those?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
you absolutely
That would
can.
be awesome.
And another thing is we're having a women's advocacy event coming up. It's a women's advocacy summit. It's coming up on the 14th of November. And I think it's grown so big that I'm not going to be able to have it here because I've already had people from all over Kingsport contacting me. From Stella Robinette had forwarded it, and Michelle Campbell, who works for Appalachian Miles for Small. There's like all kinds of people that are saying they're coming, all kinds of women. It's just time for us to come together as women. We've been in our sealed houses too long, and what we were going to do is we're going to connect resources all over the Tri-City area for women. And we're going to try to build the very first faith-based women's advocacy council of the Tri-Cities. There's not one. So we are going to build it, and we are going to connect resources. You know why? Because not only will we be bringing women together in unity, but it's an opportunity for us to encourage one another in what we do. That's another part of self-care. And also we can advocate for women's issues from a faith-based place in different areas of the world, in different areas of the United States. I plan on continuing my research. I'm working on some research right now. And it's just to better serve women. You know, we can do it if we do it together. It's not my foreign no more. Me and Erin and a couple of us have been getting together. We've been trying to unite resources all over Kingsport. And I'm like, you know, part of my ministry is uniting people, but mostly my ministry is uniting women. There's just something that happens when mamas and grandmas get together and pray together. I'm sorry. When I was growing up, the church was full of nothing but grandmas and mamas that was praying for their kids and their family, and they got things done. And so women can get things done if we come together and we join together, and that's what this is all about. So we have specialized lists. This one is called Elisha's Vessels. You know the story of Elisha and the widow? She was there by herself. God provided her just enough every day when she kept coming back. That's what Elisha's Vessels is, and it goes perfectly along with our Philippians 4:19 closet over there, because it's all about providing for people who are on a fixed income and helping them to just, you know, supplement their income and help them on a fixed income. If you're a single mom, or you're out there and you're drawing a widow's pension or whatever it is, how many know it's hard to make ends meet? How many of you been a single mom? Well, I know Laura has. How hard has it been sometimes, Laura?
Thank goodness I had an education. I wouldn't have been able to. That's my biggest thing, is educating these women. Because if they could be educated and really know what's out there to help them, getting a job, depending on themselves and not instead of a man, they can make, you know, some great strides in their life. And so education is my big thing.
Education. So those of you online who are listening, Laura was talking about if she didn't have education, it would have been really hard for her as a single mom. That's what helped her. But some of these ladies don't have the skills. They have not been back to school. So imagine how difficult it is with children and no support system. Many of the ladies that we serve, especially the ones that Erin sees on a daily basis, have little to no support system. Their family has already given up on them. Their families have kicked them out. Many of them have no relationships but the ones they have on the street. In the situation of those that are in a different situation, a lot of women are, especially retired ladies or women who are on disability, a lot of them who are older are afraid to come out. They're dealing with health problems. They're afraid because of COVID. There's a lot of loneliness in the world. So we have the field is white for harvest. We have a lot of work to do. And so here at Oasis, that's the main problem, you know, the main issue that we're looking to solve is looking out in the scope of that window and say, how can we share the gospel? How can we share hope with these people? So that's part of our relationship with Erin. And Erin sees both sides of it. She's a lot like Brandon, my husband. Brandon and her started school at ETSU the very exact same day they went and signed up together. She became a social worker, and he got a doctorate in psychology. And he works at the prison, and she works here. And she come in one day, and she's like, guess what? I got that job at the city of Kingsport. And it was just funny how God used that how we've been working together. You know, it's just, God just has an appointment for all of us. He does. And you never know that day that you're here, that somebody comes in, that you were that person's appointment with destiny. You were the person that had the story that was going to change that person's life. Because you've been there. Some of you've been single moms. You've been hurt by men. Some of you've been left behind. Some of you lost children. You know, I've sat down with a lot of you and I've heard your stories, and you're courageous women. You really are. You're courageous women, and you have a lot to bring to the table, and what we have to do is use it. I say to women, don't get mad, use your anger. If you're going to get mad over what happened to you and what you've been through and the situations of your life, get mad at Satan and use it. Use that anger in a creative way to make a difference in the kingdom of God and to make a difference in somebody else's life. I'm mad at the devil too. Let's get angry together, right? Let's storm the gates of hell and take back what's been stolen from us. Because I feel like this is time. It's time for us to come together and make a difference. Does anybody else have any more questions for Erin on one of the things that we wanted to talk about after we answer Miss Sherry's question is how to identify, how is it, do we identify somebody that's on meth or are they sick? And she talked a little bit about that, but I'm going to let her talk a little bit more, but let's answer Sherry's question first.
Do you have a training program to work with the homeless? Anything?
I just wing it.
Just,
Yeah, no, well, I mean,
because I've worked on Skid Row about 3 times. I've been there, and worked with my church in California, and there was a lot of people there. We made lunches. One lady made 100 lunches, and we brought 20 pizzas, and we brought 4 carloads of clothes, and we were there at 9:30 at night. Had all this stuff laying on the sidewalk, and everybody was coming over there. And we also went to the mission center over there in LA, and we had we were passing out socks to everybody that came in. We had a fundraiser, everybody was collecting socks, and we got to be in the chapel and do a song service. But it's, I was just wondering if there was any kind of program that you had to teach people how to work with homeless.
We're just going to pray that you'll start that early on.
well, I mean, so this job was brand new. Like, it was a brand new concept, and then it had its own challenges, not just with COVID, but then you had the whole national climate of defunding police and putting social workers in there, and I'm just like, y'all, pump your brakes. Like, you know, I'm trying to build relationships with this police. I didn't know them. Like, I didn't know the agencies. I didn't know the officers. I was kind of like on an island by myself, I felt like, and somebody said, call Jonathan, you're going to work with him, and I did, and I ain't like, but I've built those relationships. What I will tell you is, for me, and every person, I do administrative stuff the same for people, but every person is an individual contact, and I just treat them, like, I let them set the tone for that. I have been cussed. I have been, even if people don't like what I tell them, they know I'm telling them my truth and what I can do for them. I do not sugarcoat, especially drugs. One time I was out at the Salvation Army, and I had just pulled up, and here comes 2 guys. Miss Erin, come on, he's overdosing. And I'm just like getting out of the car. Like, I'm not in that mental state of mind to start doing that. And I just jump in the car, and I go to I drive to the abandoned house, and I grab my backpack, and I'm like, and then there's like 7 people, and I step, and I'm like, am I safe? Like, I don't have an officer with me. I'm, you know what I mean? I had relationships with most of them. Some of them I didn't know, but you know, I went up to the porch, and he said he was fine. I offered to call an ambulance, take him to EMS, offered to take him to detox. No, I'm fine. So, you just have to listen. There's some places I can go. Of course, Skid Row in LA is a very different culture. I mean, that's like apples and oranges. Like, and one of the things that I think a lot of people, I'm gonna tell you one of my big frustrations is, well, Charlotte does it this way. Well, let's look at Ohio, they're doing it that way. Well, let's look at LA, they're doing it this way. And I do think we can learn from people. What I also believe is this area has a very specific hold and issues. If anybody had the answer, I wouldn't have a job. We would all be, you know. So, just like in the New Testament, you know, the Church of Ephesians got their letters, the Church of Corinth got their letters, the Thessalonians got their letters. Each group got their letters, and that's the way. Some people are spending so much time looking outside than just asking what is needed here and asking for our letter on what's needed. So I think that's very, that will frustrate me. Yeah, and I will tell them that frustrates me. But anyway, but I think it's just being very vulnerable with people. What am I thinking?
That's what she said.
Hey Chantel or Erin, just for the women, can you tell like a success story so they have some hope that what we're doing here is just like oh my goodness, what am I getting into?
She has all kinds of those too.
Okay, because this is really a rewarding, probably one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. I'm not an enabler, I don't like to enable people, and that was one of my biggest things when I first came in here. You know, it was like, I want to help them, baby steps, stuff like that. And there were times when I was like, I don't know, Lord, is this really what I need to be doing? But I'll tell you, the women, you're not going to find a better group of women that support one another. You know, Chantel and I, and Lee, and Helen, and Judy, and, you know, Candy, all of the women that I know. I'm just meeting Christian and her mom, and they support me in my life. And I'm a strong woman, but we are warriors together. And that's one of the best things is friendships like you wouldn't even believe that come from here. And God put that on my heart. He's like, you're not going anywhere because they're giving back to you. They're supporting you. And like I said, I'm independent. I'm a strong woman, but you know, it's just a beautiful thing that we're about here.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I've got,
great.
yeah, one of the most excited success stories that I have is, and I wish I could have taken pictures of the people day one versus a year and a half later, but living on the street, both addicted to, see a lot of people that are addicted to Suboxone, once they start detoxing from Suboxone, that detox is very painful. It gets in your bones. And it's not just a 72-hour detox. It'll resurface after 30, 60 days. So it's like a continual detox. It's awful. And we had them in the hotel. And I stood in front of people that didn't know me, I work in the police department. And I'm like, if anybody wants treatment, I'm here for you. Nobody's gonna talk to an officer. Like, I'm not a police officer. I can't arrest you. But he took that first step, and he approached me like 2 days later. And he said, "I'm ready." I'm like, okay. And his girlfriend was staying in the room with him. She wasn't ready then. I watched him detox in that room. I didn't watch him, but he detoxed in the room. We bought him Epsom salts, liquid B12, zinc, the vitamins to help kind of relieve some of that. Lots of Tylenol. And then she started detoxing. They are both clean, have been clean for over a year now. They are both living independently, paying their own rent, not through a government subsidy even. They're paying their own rent. she's working. He is severely diabetic, so he kind of does side jobs, but we're working on trying to get his disability, like he really should be on a pump, but anyway. Clean, still going to therapy. She went and got her driver's license back, did everything to take care of that, went and passed her written test. She got her permit that day, you know, and very excited. So, there are people, there was he is 55 years old, living on the street, alcoholic. He just signed a lease last Thursday. Sober. He stayed at the Salvation Army. He did it at the Salvation Army. Sober. Got his little haircut. I picked him up the other day to take him to Walmart, and you know, he's going to therapy. All of it is a holistic point of view. The people that we have not seen successful, that we have seen get into housing, are losing housing because they're still not addressing their stuff. That's why we have to get them to address their stuff to be successful, or else it's just a cycle. So anytime anybody goes to detox for me, it's a success story. Even if they relapse, it's another week that they were clean. So success stories are different. A return phone call can be a success story.
Amen.
Getting somebody to meet you where they say they'll meet you can be success. So it can be minor to like the couple that we worked with. So
I do want to introduce to you two special kids right here.
yeah,
Erin's a single mom, like we were talking about. She knows how hard that is. This is Miss Remedy. Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
And this is Ben.
so these are mine, and just really want to, if you have somebody in that toxic home life, you know, we got to teach her what's okay and him what's okay too, as moms. And we have to set a standard for our kids. And but this is the generation that I saw something, and it was a mama praying, saying, "Why is the world? It's so scary to be a parent nowadays." And God said, "I created them just for this time." So that's what we have to believe, that they'll do what they need to do. So she's got a little mouth on her, and he's my sensitive one. And she's like her mama sometimes. Ain't that right? Yeah. So anyway.
Will you guys just tell Erin how much you
I appreciate everything y'all do too, and I am here to help if I can.